What's going on? It's time for another episode of Too Hard for the Radio. Transmitting from the future-free state of Greater Idaho, I am the one-armed madman. And back with me today for our Election Week Extravaganza, we've got the great Dan Steele.
Let's go.
Let's fucking do this. I decided, you know what? We're going for it. Election Week Extravaganza. I've hit up all my entire index, and I'm going to get as many of these fuckers out as I can for the week.
Okay. This is my first time being on a podcast, so I forgot to silence my phone. My bad.
Well, I didn't do it either. So, you know, we're fucking good, right? It's a podcast. Nobody cares. That's what I love about podcasts. Like, you hear a barking dog every once in a while. It's like, whatever. You know, people are doing their thing. They got to do what they got to do. And I always like, so like one of the first interviews I did was with Michael Storm, who I had on the podcast yesterday. So that episode's coming out tonight. And I was like still new and not really like, I didn't really know what I was doing. I kind of thought I knew what I was doing. So he hit me up like right before the podcast and he's like, hey, I have to work. Like I work in a comic book store. Is it cool if we do it from there? And I was like, you know, I'd like it to be quiet and this and that. And then I thought about it for a minute. I was like, you know what? Fuck it. It's a fucking podcast. Like one of the best episodes of Tinfoil Hat that was ever done, I think, was with this guy named Dr. Longo, who's not an actual doctor. He just runs like an oddities shop in Florida. And he was like doing the register the whole time. And I was like, you know what? I loved that podcast. Fuck it. Let's do the goddamn comic book store.
Oh, that's great. Oh, shit. I had to do that one. I did print that one order before I forgot.
No worries. No worries. I was filibustering, so we're all good.
Election week. Who are you voting for?
I am not. You know, like I feel like if I was in a swing state, I might, but it's just one of the things that really I don't like about elections is like, so look at this, the Democratic Party or the establishment, whatever you want to call like the ruling class, are so out of control and they're so vindictive that like, honestly, I don't want them to know who I voted for. Like, I just don't want to be on that list.
So I was pretty staunch anti-voting up until Friday. And my wife was too. And we got to Denver, and the Uber driver said that, you know, starting the first year, we're not allowed to grow our own food in our garden.
That's insane.
And so, like in a presidential election, it doesn't matter who I vote for. I'm in fucking Nashville.
Yeah. I'm in Idaho. Same thing. You know, like our last election, Ammon Bundy ran for governor as an independent, and he got more votes than the Democrat.
Yeah, I believe it.
Which was great. Like the sad part is like I was hoping he could like possibly win, but you know, it was just such a long shot. But he did a great job of like, there were signs, like yard signs for him everywhere, and there was nothing for Brad Little. And that's just so annoying to me because it shows that like the establishment has such little respect for us that they're going to go, look, we've got the guy in already. We know he's going to win, and we're not even going to bother advertising because they're going to vote for us anyways. It's the same thing that Kamala Harris did when she pivoted from being the farthest left candidate in her primary to being like a middle of the road Bill Clinton fucking Democrat. Now
she's gonna deport people now.
Yeah, exactly. So they have such little respect for the far left that they go, we need him for the primary, but as soon as we've got our person in there, fuck them. They're gonna vote for us anyways, or they're not gonna vote. And like, really, it doesn't matter. All we really need to do is pull a little bit from the right.
It was maybe a month or so ago. Bernie Sanders was on MSNBC, and the interviewer asked him like, hey, you know, she was like further left than you, and now she's saying things like she's going to allow fracking. And Bernie goes, she's just saying what she needs to say to get elected.
Yeah, I heard that
too. He just said that quiet part out loud.
Yeah.
It's like, Jesus Christ, Bernie.
Yeah, it's wild, dude. Like, Bernie's such a cuck. He is such a, like, he's the biggest fucking cuck in Washington. I think in that same interview, he like, I don't know how to exactly paraphrase it, but he was like, look, we've got the Cheneys on our side. That's how great we are. And it's just
this was pre-Cheney. This was
pre-Cheney. Okay, so maybe it wasn't the same, but I don't know. I have brain damage, and I watched so many scroll through so many videos on X that I can't remember who it was at this point. I think it was Bernie.
Did you see that both Vivek and Donald Trump were in a trash truck
I got
today?
videos. Before we get too far into it, I want to lead us into our election coverage here with your guy, the man, the myth, the legend, Mark Cuban. Here he is on, it looks like ABC, and he's going to tell us how great Kamala is.
Our campaign with Kamala Harris. How's it looking? Is she going to win?
I think so, for sure. I mean, when you go to one of her campaigns, she is just a dynamic speaker. I mean, the crowd is engaged. The energy is off the charts. I mean, if that's any indication, she's going to win easily.
Okay, and before we comment, I just have to prove his point about how dynamic she is. Here we go.
Of you to shout your own name. Do that. It's about all of us. It's about all of us. And listen, I have fought my whole career to put the people first.
Oh my God. What a failure.
Fought her whole career to put parents in fucking jail for truancy and to keep black men in over their term to fight fucking forest fires.
Ugh. She's just the worst, man. She doesn't have, like, Trump. One of the best things he said in the Joe Rogan podcast was he's like, look, she's not going to be able to do 3 hours with you. She's going to be on the floor. You're going to have to call the medics. And Joe's like, well, you know, I think she could. And he's like, look, Joe, you either have it or you don't. And she doesn't have it. And that's like exactly it, right? And like we knew that, like in motocross, you could tell if somebody had it or they didn't. You know, you could watch them ride. You could see how they carry themselves. And you go, oh, that kid's got it. Like there was this kid who was one of the best like mini bike riders in the world. His name was Zach Osborne. He's retired now. But when I was living in Southern California, I had friends that worked for KTM. I was roommates with somebody who was a bigwig in KTM. So when he came down to like Southern California, because he's from the South somewhere, so he came out to Southern California and he showed up at the track, and me and my buddies were all at the track riding one day, this day. And we're like A-class riders. So we're amateur professionals. We're not quite up to like being on TV, but essentially any race except for something you see on TV, we would be racing professionals. So it's just kind of a weird thing. There's not really an analogy to another sport that you can kind of get it. But anyways, when that kid showed up, all of us got off the track immediately. Because as soon as he got, like, he was the fastest dude on the track. He's on an 80. We're on 254 strokes. And it's just like, that kid's got it. And we went to dinner that night. And I didn't meet him at the track. I met him at dinner later. So he goes, oh, yeah, what number are you? And what kind of bike do you ride? I go, I'm Kawasaki, number 158. And he goes, oh, yeah, O'Neill gear. You stand up a lot. You should probably, get more over the front and the corners. And I was just like, that kid's got it. Like, whatever that is, like, that kid has fucking got it. Not only was he the baddest dude at the track, but when he got off the track, he was watching everybody to see what they do well and what they don't do well. And he was able to take my number and the type of bike I ride and give me advice. I'm a 20-year-old, and this is a little 15-year-old kid. And I'm like, dude, give me more. Tell me what I'm doing wrong.
I forget where we're going with that.
It was just Kamala sucks.
Just Kamala.
She has it or she doesn't. She doesn't have it. That's kind of my point there. Yeah. Here's another one. I got another one we can pop off real quick.
Yeah, let's do it.
Here she is on Shannon Sharp.
He would do that is about eliminating or reducing the ability of corporations to be required to pay overtime pay.
So you could work and the corporations wouldn't have to pay you for
overtime.
Who worked for free?
That's right. And like overtime means you are actually working a longer day, which means you are more tired.
Right.
Which means it requires more exertion. That's why we have overtime pay. So you don't take advantage of workers.
Thank you, Kamala, for explaining overtime to us. I mean, where would we be if not for that explanation, right?
Let's unpack that for a second.
And coming from a person who's never worked overtime in her life.
Yeah. I mean, except on Willie Brown.
Yeah, well, yeah, we could call that overtime. Downtown Willie Brown.
So let's unpack that for a second. I have somebody who's working in suboptimal circumstances. So you're tired, you're not working as hard, you're not doing such a good job. I should pay you more to work at like 70, 80%?
Yeah.
No, I need 100 because that's what I'm paying. Now I'm paying 150%. Like, just I don't necessarily have an opinion on overtime. Really haven't thought about it.
I do.
But her explanation made me hate overtime.
Yeah.
Like, why would I pay somebody more money to accomplish less?
Yeah. I think that overtime should not be mandatory. I think in a capitalist society that competition should eventually bring overtime into the mix. Like, I worked for a line company that was awful with overtime. So when I worked as a bartender in California, any time over 8 hours, you get time and a half. In North Dakota, it's completely different. It's any time over 40 hours, you get time and a half. So what they would do is they would fly us in on a Tuesday. We would work until the following, 2 weeks later Tuesday. So that first week, you don't get much overtime because it's Tuesday through Sunday. The next week, you're Sunday through Sunday, but then you're only Sunday through Tuesday. So they really screw you on the overtime. And like, I knew that it was a fucked up thing, but at the same time, I also knew that I was getting a shitload of hours with this company and I was going to get through my apprenticeship way faster than if I went and worked for another company that had to pay me, time and a half after 8 hours. Yeah. I was totally I know that trade-off and I'm perfectly fine with it. I made that decision and I think everybody should be allowed to make that decision. Better companies should offer overtime because you want to keep your employees happy. You want to keep them working for you.
Yeah. So I, during my time running, the last time I ran a sizable company, 100 employees, something changed. And if somebody was making under 70,000 a year, which now isn't that much money, but 6-7 years ago, it was a pretty good wage. I think it was 70. If they're making under 70, you had to pay them time and a half. Salary employees, you had to pay them time and a half for hours over 40.
Oh, that's fucking ridiculous.
So that made us it didn't make us change our practices. It made us run a cost benefit analysis, look at the employees who weren't performing very well, fire them, and then give everybody who was performing well a raise to $70,001. And I was able to save 20% on payroll because I had to make that decision. And pretty cutthroat way to look at it or whatever.
Yeah.
But the government stepped in and said, you got to pay these people that suck. Well, I'm not going to do that. Okay, well, I'm going to fire these people. And we gave them 2-3 months severance. Healthcare was covered. We weren't just ruthless, but it definitely it made me cut headcount is what it did.
Sure. The last restaurant that I worked in, we had a hiring problem. We just couldn't keep enough staff. So that left us with a lot of bad people and the people who didn't understand capitalism, people who did not understand meritocracy. So the worst people that worked at the restaurant were the hostess. They just stood up at the front and took people to their tables. They have zero skills. They're not working hard. Every once in a while, they might have to clear a couple glasses off the table, and they complain more than anybody else in the restaurant because they're not getting paid enough. I don't make enough money. And then that person gets promoted to a waitress. And then they go, well, this person's worthless. I'm not tipping this worthless hostess. Why should I do that? And also, this bartender isn't making my drinks fast enough. So why should I have to tip that bartender? And then they get promoted to bartender and they go, both of these people are worthless. And, and it just keeps working that way. And one of the big arguments we had at the restaurant was when San Francisco upped their minimum wage from $10.50 to $13 an hour or something like that.
For a server?
Yeah, for just minimum wage. And everybody's all excited. Oh, we're going to make so much more money, blah, blah, blah. And I'm telling these waitresses, I'm like, you guys aren't going to make any more money. In fact, this is going to cost you money because what's going to happen is now the restaurant is going to do the exact same thing that you just did. They're going to go through and say who's working and who isn't. How many people do we have to have on staff to get rid of overtime completely? And how many of them can we fire? So as soon as that minimum wage went in, a bunch of people got fired. The dishwashers got fired. So then people had to wash their own dishes at some point. A couple hostesses got fired, some waitresses got fired, and now everybody's looking around like, am I next?
Yeah. And then they didn't work any harder. They just bitched about how everybody's getting fired.
Yeah. Yeah. And just
So,
no realization that they don't have any
like
skills. And if you get
margin.
Yeah, and if you improve your skill set, you'll make more money. Like I was the second highest paid employee in that restaurant behind the general manager because I worked my ass off. Restaurants is one industry where you control how much you make, which is also like it's a very empowering job in that way because it's on you. Like you decide. Another thing that like, so the 5-day work week versus like the 3 or 4 day work week, right? That's always a big debate between these fucking liberal idiots who don't understand capitalism. I'm working 5 days. My boss was always trying to cut me down to 4. We got to cut overtime. Like we need to cut you down to 4. And I always complained about it and I resisted it and I just wasn't having any of it. I did not want to lose that battle because I did not want to be stuck in a position where I have to argue for more. I'd rather argue to keep, okay. So anyways, after a couple years, I was making good money. I was making 6 figures and I started taking a day off during the week. And after like 3 months, my boss was like, hey, can I schedule you to 4 days now? Like you've been doing it for 3 months. Like, can we just start scheduling it that way? And I was like, you know what? Yeah. Like I like working 4 days. I'm not as tired because I was working like 12-hour days, 14-hour days at the bar. So it wasn't like I was just working, 40 hours. I was still getting 40 hours in on 4 days a week. And turns out I made more money. That year was the most money I made working at that restaurant. And it was because I was better. Every day I was a little bit better because I wasn't as tired. I wasn't as ran down. I wasn't as sick of the place. I wasn't as sick of the people. Like I was just able to be a little bit better. And being a little bit better every day was better than being, 80% for 5 days.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it won't work that way for everyone. But for some people, it might be good.
And to bring it all back, Kamala's justification for mandatory overtime was we need to pay these people who aren't doing as good of a job.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's something else,
She's
man.
just like not very smart.
She's a low IQ She's a low IQ person, Joe. Low IQ. Her IQ down there. She's something.
So I watched the Trump Rogan thing with my wife.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing my wife pointed out, which was really funny, is he would always talk about physical attributes of men.
Yeah, he does, right?
He's like, oh, he's a big guy. He's a very big guy. Must have a cock like this.
They're all beautiful looking guys. Perfect people. The pilots are perfect.
Yeah. Pilots, taller than Tom Cruise. Very handsome men.
My main takeaway from that podcast was that it wasn't anything that anybody said. It was just the fact that we have the two people most responsible for destroying the corporate press on the same stream for the first time. Like, I thought that was cool. It was like a moment like, hey, we won. Podcast won. And now Kamala's coming out. Like, people from her camp are like, oh, he needs her, not the other way around. It's like, are you nuts? Are you fucking crazy?
Because, and it's like, she said, come fly and meet me and I'll talk to you for an hour and I need to give you talking points to start. And people are like, well, what do you expect from the vice president? You think she's just going to drop what she's doing and go to Austin? Well, Donald Trump did. JD Vance did. They have a campaign trail to be on. They're drawing more numbers than her for sure. But to go back to your point about destroying the mainstream media or the corporate media, think about this. Fly back in time 15 years and tell yourself that the host of Fear Factor interviewing the host of The Apprentice is the most impactful conversation around the entire presidential election.
Yeah, man. That's something.
Bananas.
That's something. This was the October surprise, for sure.
Oh, the October surprise was not Biden going out and calling half of America trash?
I've got that one too. You know what? Let's go back to Mark Cuban here, just real quick and check in and see if he's changed his mind after watching Club Shay Shay.
Okay. In a normal world, the two parties would get together and say, let's just stop this name calling, right? Let's just focus on the issues. But this is not a normal world. Donald Trump is not a normal candidate. And I think it's not a stretch to call Donald Trump a fascist. You talked about the people in his cabinet that spoke the same way. You know, he's talking about the enemy within and going after people using the military. He's talked about mass deportations where, you know, they'll stop people on the street and check their papers. What does that remind you of? Talking about, you know, knocking on doors and pulling people out and deporting them. What does that remind you of? That's pretty damn close to fascism, if not the definition of fascism.
So at the risk of going full Shark Tank, I want to show.
Okay. So the two parties would just get together and stop the name calling. But Trump is so bad that we have to call all of his supporters garbage. Like,
So
that is the
people that are
craziest.
actually fascist. Oh, can we pull up the definition?
I was
of
going to
fascist
do that
real quick?
actually, but my screen was kind of tied up, so maybe you could do that. Like, I always thought that fascism was the merger of corporation and state. That was Mussolini's definition of fascism. I'm sure that they've changed the definition, just like they've changed the definition of inflation and what a vaccine is. You know, if you don't like what the word actually means, just change the definition.
Yeah. Well, Wikipedia, who now officially
Captured.
label, no, they on Trump's Wikipedia, they label him as a fascist.
Really?
Yeah. Well,
That's
I
awesome.
read that on a headline on Twitter. I didn't check it. What is the Webster's?
While you're looking for it, here's Biden calling us trash.
Or Puerto Rico, where I'm in my home state of Delaware. They're good, decent, honorable people. The only garbage I see floating out there is his supporters. His demonization is seen as unconscionable, and it's un-American.
So they're garbage, but their demonization is unconscionable. It's just, what is the definition of fascism?
Oh, I'm going. I asked. I asked what it was in 1995.
Ah, good call. Good call. This is
So-
Bill Clinton's fascism.
It emphasized a system of authoritarian governance marked by a dictatorial leader, strong nationalism, and social regimentation. This ideology was as foreseeably suppressing opposition, emphasizing collective goals above individual rights, and often incorporating extreme nationalism. But let's
Aside
take
from the
first-
nationalism, that's the Democrats.
Let's take the first two parts. Suppressing opposition. So we're going to try to put everybody in jail.
Yep.
Steve Bannon, Donald Trump, Giuliani, which I don't know anything about Giuliani or Bannon's case, but
Me neither.
it
We
looked
all know
pretty-
though that it's BS. Whatever they're getting
it
ran
looked
under is
politically
BS.
motivated. So suppressing opposition, the Twitter files.
Yeah.
The FBI paid Twitter to take down posts that were factually correct about side effects from the vaccine because it would cause vaccine hesitation. Okay. So
Hunter Biden's laptop.
yeah.
85,000 former CIA said it's Russian disinformation.
Emphasizing collective goals above individual rights. Get back in your house, plague rat.
Yeah.
Don't kill my grandmother.
Safe and effective.
Yeah. I don't know. It seems like they just, whatever they're doing, they accuse the other people of doing it.
Yeah, it's James Lindsay has a great one. It's called The Iron Laws of Woke. I could look those up real quick, but the iron laws, one of them is the iron law of woke projection. They're always projecting. You know, anything that they say you're doing is absolutely what they are doing. And
Trump is dodging from interviews.
yeah,
And then he out-interviewed Officer Harris 2-1 or something like that.
dude, she's been in Joe Biden's basement for the past fucking week. What the hell is she doing? Trump is all over the place. He did 3 hours with Rogan. And the coolest part, one of the other cool parts of it was right at the end when he was not watching the clock. He wasn't asking what time it was. I don't think he was even wearing a watch. And he was just like, oh, this was great. Like, how long do we do? 3 hours. Wow, this is awesome. We should do this again. You're incredible. Like, you could tell that he understood what he just did. Like, it wasn't just a normal interview. He was like, oh, I get why this is what it is. Like, that was amazing. We did 3 hours and it just flew by. And like, I think he really got it. He was like, this is the fucking future. This is how it's going to be. Like the corporate.
Then he hopped on an airplane
and did a rally.
Yeah.
It was that's incredible. And now he's in a fucking, here he is.
Like my garbage truck. This truck is in honor of Kamala and Joe Biden.
He's incredible. Dude, he's trolling. His troll level is through the fucking roof. I loved when he said that he thought that the McDonald's stunt was just going to be a throwaway. And it turned out to just be this massive fucking thing, right? And like the garbage truck.
Who has this ear to where they're like, say you'll fix the ice cream machines?
That was so funny. That was so funny. That's a Tim Dillon joke to me. That's a Tim Dillon joke.
the dude with the hair, cancel this clothing.
I don't know.
The conspiracy guy, like he breaks down conspiracies. And
Ian Carroll.
Yeah. So he broke down the conspiracy and what it goes back to is the manufacturer has a monopoly on selling ice cream machines to McDonald's, and they make more money in revenue from fixing them than they do selling them.
Nice.
And they're the only people that can fix them.
Nice scam.
Yeah.
Nice fucking scam.
Yeah.
I had an angle. I had an angle I was going at, and then it threw me off. Something threw me off. I don't remember where I was going. There was I don't know. I'll remember in a minute. But the voter ID, the voter stuff is already going out of control. I've got a video here of some voter suppression going on. We'll listen to this one real quick.
Question.
Oops.
I have to bring someone here about 4 o'clock to vote. Are they
I'm
going to
ask you to talk to this.
Are they going to turn everyone down?
I'm going to ask you to talk to this gentleman because
This gentleman's a cop.
Closed right now.
Go talk
It's
to the
closed.
cops.
I just want you to talk to this gentleman.
We have the right to vote until 4:30.
I get you. Here's
Why
what
is it
happened.
closed?
Let me explain it to you.
Please.
Okay. This process is very slow and grueling.
That doesn't matter if we're
Slow
on
and grueling process. It's fucking electronic machines where you press a goddamn button. How slow and grueling could that possibly be?
Did you see that the Secretary of State of Michigan said that the Dominion machines have a bug that is nationwide and there's nothing they can do about it?
Unreal. We should go back to paper ballots. Like, this is fucking crazy what they're doing with these machines. Like, and this fucking cop, man, like they closed this line down at 1:30. It was supposed to close at 4:30. Real quick, we'll finish it off because there's another great piece of info in here that we'll be able to pivot off of.
Slow and grueling.
Doesn't matter if we're online by 4:30. We have the right to
why it
vote.
had to close was because a high volume of people wanted to do this. Slow and grueling.
Well, then they
So
have
they
to
had
wait
to
till
wanted to
everyone's
vote.
They had to cut the
doesn't-
line at 1:45.
They cut the line at 1:45.
1:45.
You hear that, everyone? They cut the line at 1:45.
Here's your.
This is voter fraud, by the way.
No, it's
who
not.
Yes, it is. Oh, voter protection. I heard about that on X. Yeah, there's a lot going on.
Contact
Voter protection. Let's see what that's from.
the county commissioners to complain.
This is
Yeah.
And so
We'll
so you
investigate
think this
ourselves
is,
and find
voter
nothing
fraud?
wrong.
This is voter fraud.
Real quick, it's coming up right now, and then we'll get
See
off
that,
of this.
everyone? They cut the line, even though we have till 4:30. Election fraud here in Bucks County.
Here we go.
And you have an oath. I mean, don't you? They're not accepting anyone else.
Oh, did they cut off for
They
today?
cut it off because
So
of
she's
election
talking to another
fraud.
woman now.
That's why they cut it off.
That's incorrect. It's actually posted online that they can cut it
No,
off.
it's election fraud.
It's not.
It's
but
election
okay.
fraud. What are you voting for the left?
Fucking
election-
disgusting Democrat shows up to vote, gets turned away, and goes, "Oh yeah, they're allowed to do that. It's not a fraud." It's just I was talking with Michael Storm yesterday, and he was talking about the difference between like the liberal thought process and the normal thought process. The liberal thought process isn't a thought process at all. It's an emotional reaction. What did he call it? An emotional feedback loop. And that's exactly what we just saw there. She did not look at that that situation logically and go, oh, like, what the hell is going on here? She had an emotional reaction to what that woman said. And like, you are literally supporting your own fucking tyranny. Like, they are fucking screwing you over, making you drive to another location to go vote. And here you are carrying water and licking their fucking boots for them. It's disgusting.
So let's just hit a couple of bullet points of what I've seen the last couple of days. I haven't had time to really research. One in Pennsylvania, they were walking people that didn't speak English in front of normal voters to vote, and then turning away normal voters. 2, there's that. 3, in Virginia, they had people that were here and not legally allowed to vote on their voter roll. The Secretary of State made it so that they could remove those people. And I don't know, they could be ex-cons, they could be whatever. They weren't allowed to vote. Secretary of State got them thrown off the voter roll. And then this administration sued to keep them on, which got overturned by the Supreme Court today.
I saw that.
Then there was over 100,000 votes in Michigan that were not valid, and there was an emergency settlement. Those people got kicked off today. So let's say that the Democrats were running a free and fair campaign, and for some reason the people chose Kamala Harris. In what world would anybody with any bit of thought say that was free and fair?
Yeah. No, and Tucker made a great point about this at Madison Square Garden. He was kind of like throwing out not a challenge, but like he was kind of essentially what he said was like, if you are going to tell us on Wednesday morning or Tuesday night that 85 million people voted for Kamala Harris just because she's so great, we aren't going to believe you. Like, we don't believe that. Nobody believes that. So if you try and pull that shit on us again, we're not going for it. Like, this is not going to happen again. And I think the fact that like a lot of like WAPO and the Los Angeles Times are both not supporting Kamala, Jeff Bezos had to send in orders to the Washington Post saying, we're not going to be supporting a candidate this time
he's still
around.
trying to get government contracts, of course.
Exactly. And they got to play, daddy's getting back, daddy's coming home, and he ain't happy. Right. I've got another video here. I won't play it because the sound is bad, but this Irish guy went and voted. Like, it was a Project Veritas video. So it was like a hidden camera thing set up, and he was just an Irish guy. And he came in and he's like, I want to vote. And they're like, well, you can't. And he's like, well, I have a visa. And they're like, oh, and they let him vote. I saw another one that I forgot to save of this older woman. She was probably 70 or so. She'd never voted before. And they pulled up her voter history, and she had voted a bunch of fucking times. And she's like, I've never voted for the president before. Like, how is this even possible? So as I'm watching that, I was like, I wonder if I've ever voted before, because I've never voted personally. And I spent an hour on the internet trying to figure it out. Couldn't. How is it that we cannot check if we voted or not and who we voted for? That seems so corrupt to me.
So the system that would work is paper ballot. You get a copy with a registration number, and then you can go search your private registration number. Nobody else gets it, and see what your vote got tallied as.
Yeah. I couldn't even find a database.
Oh, you're in a database.
I mean, of votes. Like, I couldn't even find like where you would go to find out if you voted. Like, just searching it on the internet, all they give you is like background check websites. They don't like, I couldn't find it. I'm sure there is a way to check, but I couldn't figure it out.
But the major banks partnered with the FBI and gave credit card information to anybody who purchased anything from Bass Pro, got sent to the FBI to see if you're an extremist or not.
Yeah. I mean, that's insane. I was looking at it like the money breakdown of like who was voted for or who was given money to who. and it is so fucking lopsided. It's not even funny. Like all of the major institutions, all of the, big business box stores, everybody all in on Kamala. It's not even close. And then when you hear people like complaining about it, he's got billionaires and he's spending all his money. It's like they're outspending him by like 3x or something. Like it's not even close.
He was spending like $3 million a day.
Yeah.
I thought. And then last month she spent $250 million. So that's over $8 million a day.
That is so much money. And they're complaining about Elon.
Give that retard $1.
Yeah. And they're complaining about Elon randomly giving people $1 million, which is so fucking cool. Like that's one of the coolest things you could do as a fucking billionaire is just give people money. Like if I had money, I would give money out. Like I said earlier, I was a bartender for a long time. If I had a fucking $1 billion, you know how much I'd be tipping people like fucking crazy. 1,000 here, 5,000 here. Like if you've got billions of dollars, that is change for you. Like I don't know that I could even spend $1 billion in a year or 5 or 10 years. You know what I mean?
I definitely could.
I could, but like I wouldn't because I'm not an idiot.
No, I would. I'd overthrow a nation.
Oh, that'd be fun. Which one?
Huh?
Which one?
I don't know. I'd love to own Ireland, but those people are so feisty.
It's a beautiful place.
Is it?
Oh, it looks beautiful on TV. I mean, Ireland and Scotland, you got those big rolling hills. You'd have a bunch of windmills that you have to demolish, but that can be done.
Here's what I want to know about the Irish. So we're all aware of the potato famine. Killed a ton of them. They're surrounded by fucking fish.
Yeah,
How are you starving when you're surrounded by fish?
I never thought of that. Oh my God, that is bad. If I was going to overthrow a nation, it would be either Canada or Australia. Give those people their freedom back.
I'd rule with an iron fist. I wouldn't give them freedom.
That would definitely be more fun. Speaking of more fun, we've got a new product here that you need to discuss. I don't even know, like, how do you pronounce the name of it? Is it Happy or
Yeah, it's Happy with a P sign as the V because we couldn't buy Happy. So my wife and I met at Burning Man. We're into very unpopular music. We stopped doing drugs about when we got married because people started dying from fentanyl. And one day, one of our favorite producers died. And my wife is like, we need to do something about this. I'm like,
yeah,
the fuck can I do? I've been in tech forever. And my wife, she's a fashion designer that at the time she was designing costumes for shows on the Las Vegas Strip. So she did a lot for the people that own Absinthe. I think she does a costume for Cirque, but like definitely not in the consumer packaged goods space. So I'm like, yeah, what are we going to do? And then a couple weeks later, I woke up and she was particularly excited to just shove her phone in my face, which she never does. And she said, you need to read this article. And this article said that this plant from South Africa gave that individual person a feeling like they were on MDMA and it was legal. I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. Maybe we should buy some. I didn't even think to do anything with it. And we went hiking with my buddy and his wife, and he's actually a partner in the company now. And he happened to have some that day. And my wife took it. I was driving, so I'm like, MDMA, I'm not gonna take it. And she really enjoyed it. So we bought some and we took it on vacation. And we what we found with the stuff that we bought, it was more like, it was supposed to be gummies, but it was more like a bullion cube than a gummy. And you had to eat like 4 or 5 of them to get high. So you're just chomp. It wasn't good. And coming from tech, I was like, oh, we'll be in stores in 2 months. We're going to do better. So that was a multi-year journey in most of my net worth.
Oh, wow. So you're really in.
Oh, yeah, I'm in.
You're all in.
Well,
wow.
It's a purpose. Like 2 months ago, a couple of people that my wife knew bought liquid ketamine from Mexico. And when you get liquid, it should be pretty safe. You have to bake it, I think, and then snort it.
Mm-hmm.
All 6 of them died. There was fentanyl.
Oh, wow.
Like fentanyl
That's
is really
horrible.
there's 2.5 times more people died in the United States from fentanyl last year than the people who had died in Palestine when I checked this number.
Oh, wow.
So it was
Ooh.
like 40,000 people in Palestine and 100,000 people in the U.S.
And these are destitute, just like people whose lives are just destroyed. I was a heroin, like I was an oxy addict. I was a fentanyl addict for a long time, and this stuff destroys you. Like when I got hurt,
They're putting in fucking weed now.
I know when I got hurt, like I was 5 years clean off of the opioids, and right away in the hospital, they're fentanyl patches. You know, I was 150 micrograms of fentanyl patches from day one. My doctor was blown away. He was like, honestly, the amount of drugs we've given you today would kill a horse.
Yep. So we started the company, and I thought we'd just like make something, get in the stores real quick. But the plant, I guess I'll tap back on the plant. The plant was first documented by the Dutch in the 1650s, and the indigenous people in South Africa take it, and they believe that it's a mood stabilizer. So they introduce it to their children through breastfeeding.
Oh.
And then they're really good at killing big animals with small arrows. So they'll shoot a big animal and they'll have to track it for days. So they would chew on it to suppress their appetite and suppress their thirst. But it's also a serotonin reuptake inhibitor. So when they get to the animal, they dump serotonin. They have almost a spiritual connection with their food, which is something I really haven't had.
Yeah.
But they also use it in dance ceremony. And again, it's a SRI. So when you dance and you release serotonin, you feel a psychoactive effect. So we started making a product. What we recently found out is probably 80-90% of the active ingredient is wasted because your body doesn't hold on to it. So the best way to ingest it is through sublingual, which we just launched a product. When it was introduced to us, we snorted it, as you do with most powders.
Yeah.
And it took about 20 minutes to set in, and it was really, really intense and overwhelming. And then we couldn't find insurance that would let us market and sell it as something that you snort. So we started just saying like, wink, wink, put it under your tongue.
Yeah.
And then we actually tried it on our tongue, and it was so great. It was probably, so we went to a concert at Red Rocks this weekend, and my wife's friend is a savage. She could put, you know how people do lines? She could do chapters.
Oh, nice.
And
hell yeah. Hell yeah.
We gave her
that's my kind of party.
Yeah. we gave her some sublingually. We had a great time at the concert. Took a little more in the Uber on the way back. Then when we got back to the room, we all just fell asleep. Then we all woke up at 8 a.m. We felt great.
That's
and
awesome.
It's just like almost like a life hack. Now that I'm in my, I guess, late 40s now at 46, I'm not trying to do something that keeps me up all night, makes me grind my teeth, and then I feel like shit the next day. And I've done quite a bit of this through the R&D process. And I think we found through the powder the best form factor so far, and just doing it sublingually. So now we sell chews, which again gets wasted.
Yeah.
A bunch of it gets wasted when you eat it. We made these things that we call hydration packs, which are similar to liquid IV, except they give you a boost with it.
Nice.
And then we have pills. We call them happy pills. And that's more of like a day-to-day mood stabilizer, put you in a good mood, which none of those have been widely, I did this and I felt this, because it's just all very different for different people. But now that we have the powder, Jesus Christ, it's just.
That's so cool, man. Like I take ketamine every night. When my doctor first suggested ketamine, because I'm always searching, for something to get rid of the phantom limb pain. The phantom limb pain's just gnarly. And my doctor suggested ketamine, and I had been on ketamine in the burn unit, and it was not a good time. Like I was on fentanyl, I was on ketamine. They had me tied down. One night I was like just tripping fucking balls. My face was itching like crazy, and my nurse was just being a cunt. So like it was just one of the worst nights of my life. So when they suggested ketamine, I was like, not really. I don't know about that. And they were like, look, we're giving you a little bit and like, it's not going to do the same thing. So they gave me a powder pill. I put it under my tongue before I go to bed. And within a couple days, the pain had dropped significantly and I started feeling better. Like, it's hard to really describe, but just like better, more present, more clear. And it feels like it just really cleared me out. And I mean, this stuff's still hard to get for normal people. Like somebody like me, I have a little bit of a better chance to get something like that because I'm so fucked up. But like a normal person who's just going through it, like I remember reading something a while back, and I don't know if this is true or not, but they were essentially saying that they did this scientific study and there was no proof that depression is caused by a chemical imbalance. And I've always kind of felt that like most depression that people deal with is situational, not so much like a chemical. Like me, I'm depressed because I'm hurt. Like it's a situation that I'm in. And like, I don't necessarily think that it was a chemical imbalance in my brain. I think that it was just hard for me to cope with life the way it is now, you know? And the thought that like you could do that naturally and not have to deal with doctors, with big pharma, with side effects, with any of that shit, just be able to have some natural fucking thing that can help you in multiple ways. You can have fun too. Like that's great. But I would imagine like based on my experience, what you're telling me, I would imagine you would get the same effect of possible like depression and you know, situational depression. I think that there's probably a decent chance that it's going to help people in more ways than just having fun.
Yeah. So we started this with the mission of we wanted to stop seeing our friends die.
Yeah.
And it's turned into quite a bit more. I can't make any medical claims, but I can give you anecdotal information that we've learned. One of the dudes that he did some graphic design work for us, so we gave him, you know, a bunch of product. His grandmother's been on lithium or something forever, and she cut that intake back by 50% just by drinking the water. Which I'm not saying that our product cures depression. I don't know. Like our hope is to sell this product that feels a lot like a rave drug, if you will. Make enough money to do the clinical trials and figure it out. So it's a serotonin reuptake inhibitor, which is similar to an SSRI in the sense that, well, the difference between an SRI and an SSRI is SRIs exist in nature. And people can find them and they can take them. The pharma companies need to patent things. So they selectively choose what part of your serotonin that your brain holds on to so that you feel better. And not to get all tinfoil hat, but name a mass shooter in the last 10 years who wasn't on an SSRI.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I do believe that there's no drug that I would take from prescribed to me by a doctor unless I was going to die. And I do believe that there are natural alternatives to things.
Oh, I agree. I think that everything that we need as people exists on this planet in some form or another. We just have to figure out how to utilize it in the right way.
Absolutely.
Like I totally like I'm so like I love like, and this would be a great like pivot into our last video, but like I'm always into aliens and like I'm into that type of shit. And like I was sitting out in my hot tub the other day. My grandfather cracked me up. Like he called me a few weeks ago, and he's a Catholic guy, and he's had some things in his life that have made him kind of question things. And so funny.
Was it we were fucking the kids that made him question things?
Not so much that. Like I don't know exactly what it is. One big thing is his nephew is gay, or his grandson is gay, and it was like. He just couldn't.
It's a human being.
Yeah, he couldn't. Like they thought that gay people were evil; they were going to hell. But then you have your grandson, and it's like, well, no, that can't be true, right? And so we're just talking, and he was like, "And I'm reading these books about aliens, and if you don't think bet your ass there's aliens out there." We're just cracking up because that's not something he would have said 20 years ago. And I was sitting out in my hot tub, that night, and I was just thinking about life. And my take on aliens is essentially like, I don't think we have any alien civilizations in our light bubble that we can see at this point. Maybe like as our telescopes get better, maybe James Webb will find something. But like I'm not convinced that aliens are everywhere or anything like that.
Yeah.
And but I'm sitting in my. I do think there's a lot of slime. I think we'll find a lot of slime, a lot of algae, a lot of shit like that. So I'm sitting in my hot tub, and I'm just thinking about that, and I'm going, you know what? I have to dump chemicals in this hot tub weekly to keep light from growing in 104 degrees, barrel of water that gets zero light, right? And it's like, life is so amazing on this planet. Like, evolution is amazing. Like, everything that you see in front of us is just the product of millions and millions of years of evolution. That is, it's just incredible. And the thought that like we have to create chemicals to make ourselves feel better when we have like the best, like the thing that bothers me a lot about sci-fi is like we go to the closest planet to us and it's way better than Earth. It's incredible. It's beautiful. It's gorgeous. Like, I don't think that's the case. I think we're going to find a lot of deserts, and this is the beautiful, oasis, right? The only sci-fi show that I've ever seen that has had that premise was Battlestar Galactica. Battlestar Galactica, they had their 9 planets. They were kind of like a desert. They travel all through the galaxy looking for a new home, and then they land on Earth. And Edward James Olmos had like a great line. He's like, this planet is incredible. There's more life on this one continent than all 9 of our planets put together. And it's like, yeah, like we live in an incredible place. Whether it was designed or it's just the product of millions of years, it's incredible. And everything we need is here, I believe.
And to that, if I'm gonna send you some of the powder,
yeah,
I'm dead serious. I much prefer it under my tongue than up my nose, not just because I can't get insurance for up my nose.
Yeah. No, I mean the ketamine works great under the tongue, and that's why I totally believe you on that. Like, I wouldn't want to put that stuff up my nose. It's too much powder.
Yeah. Oh, just ketamine up the nose. I don't do that anymore because people are dying from it, but goddamn.
Too much powder. Like, you would have to do like 3 pills, and that's like a fucking chapter.
So anyway, to whoever's listening to this, I'm going to send Nick some. He'll give his honest feedback one way or the other. And then we'll drop a promo code for 20% off into the show notes or whatever.
Yeah.
And this isn't like I know it's going to do well. I don't care if people buy it or not. I want everybody to try it.
Yeah.
But it's just a very special thing. And I think it helps us. And so the products that we make, the chews, the hydration packs, the pills, I'd call that like a Whole Foods sourcing. But the powder, we have somebody on our team that spent 10 years in the bush in South Africa, and we buy the plant before it gets processed from 2 different tribes, and it's just like a direct connection. So I call that farm to spoon.
Oh, nice. That's a great episode title. I was just thinking, what are we going to call this one? Farm to spoon. I love it.
It's a special thing. It's really impacted my life, and I hope to share it with the world. It ain't cheap, but like,
good things aren't cheap. Like, you got to spend money to have something good, Yeah.
On our website, you can get 20 servings for $50, and one serving lasts me about 45 minutes. So you're talking about, $250, and I'm paying like $15 for a drink. I'll take it,
Yeah. No, that's awesome, man.
Then you get the discount, so it goes down to $2.
I'm excited to try it. I've got a bunch of family members that would like to try it, I'm sure, because like a lot of my family is just fucked up. My aunt's fucked up, her husband's fucked up. Like, we're all just fucked up.
I'll send you a little bit of everything. It's really interesting because like we were at a show, just like a dubstep show, and we gave people our microdose, and one guy took half of a microdose and it fucking rocked his world. And then me, I need like 3 or 4 of the megadose to even get going.
Yeah. People are different.
It's all different based people's brain or bioavailability, I guess. But the powder, I've given it to, I don't know, between customers and people to try it, probably close to 1,000 people, and only 2 people have been like, I didn't feel anything. So if you're on SSRIs or you've taken a lot of kratom, like that might be a factor. But most everybody with 25 milligrams under the tongue has a really good time.
Awesome, man. I'm excited. And to be honest, like I'm more excited to see if, it has any other effects, like the effects like that I'm describing with ketamine. Like I'm interested to see all of it, I'd love to try some at a concert next time I go to a concert. That would be fucking great, I think we're going to go to Rise Against next month, so that'd be fun.
Yeah.
Not a huge fan, but
cool.
my buddy
Like,
likes them, so I'm going to go.
I felt like I was properly fucked up for that show.
I like that.
I almost puked. I took so much time. It's like doing other drugs. It really is. To where if you take too much, it can get overwhelming. You can puke. The powder, not the other stuff. But like I got properly fucked up at that show, and then we got back to our room at probably 11:30 midnight. Fell asleep by 1, and we were all up at 8. We had breakfast,
and see, that's why I don't take drugs anymore. Well, and because I live in Idaho and it's fucking sketchy to do drugs here. But like, I don't like feeling like shit the next day. Like if I do coke, I'm up all night. My legs are cramped up. The next day, I feel like shit. Like I just don't like uppers at all. And like, I don't know. I don't really take fucking. I mean, I take another pill that kind of blocks opioid receptors, so opioids don't really do it for me anymore. Like I do take them still because they work a little bit, but not in the same way as they would.
Oh, it'll be interesting to see since you are doing that. Because like that might be because kratom, I know, or I'm not like certain because I saw the studies or whatever, but it's pretty well known that kratom changes your receptors, which makes you less likely to be more addicted to opioids. But people who take a lot of kratom have a hard time feeling our product. So it'll be just interesting to see how it works for you. Yeah.
All right. We got one more video and then we're going to get out of here. I sent you this video yesterday. I did not want to hear your reaction to it until we got on the podcast. So here it is. For people listening, this is a UFO video.
Oh my God!
This is Area 51.
Whoa! That was intense. That's one of the best UFO videos I've ever seen. What do you think? Is that real? Is it AI? Is it a combination? What are we looking at here?
I didn't take much time to think about it. It's just, all right, so I'll give you my opinion on religion and aliens in one bit. I feel like a lot of people spend a lot of time trying to figure that out. So like, what's the meaning of life? Where do I end up when I'm gone? And quite a while ago, I saw how many people were trying to figure that out. And I'm like, how much fucking time are they wasting? I'm just going to go do life and see what happens. So I really don't have an opinion on aliens. I think it would be arrogant of us to think that we're the only beings that exist. But that's kind of where my thoughts stop. Same thing with religion. Like, so many people try to figure out what's on the other side and just miss what's right here. Yeah. And I just don't spend a lot of time thinking about it.
Yeah. So my thoughts on it is like I said earlier, I don't think this is aliens. Like I think whatever these craft are, they either came from here a long time ago, like maybe we had a civilization here a really long time ago, the Silurian hypothesis, as it's called. If we had, just a couple 100 million years and there would be zero evidence of anything that was here, we could have had this could have been a gas station for an alien civilization that went extinct a long time ago. There's a bunch of different things that could happen, but like, I just don't think these things are aliens. And what really worries me about this is like, we've been talking for months now that I think that Trump's going to win and they're going to destroy the country somehow. And like, this could be it. We could be looking at Project Bluebeam, and it's creepy because we kind of had the same like awakening process. We had that like Legion of Skanks, Joe Rogan, you know, Dave Smith kind of line. And it's a creepy thing, because if I hadn't gone through that awakening, I would probably think that was an alien right now.
Yeah.
And I think that I would probably have fallen for Project Bluebeam. Now there's zero chance I'm falling for it. Like if we get an alien invasion or armada showing up, like I am not going to buy it until like somebody shows me something that is actual like proof.
Yeah.
Like show me the alien, show me that you can do something that we can't. Show me where you come from. But until then, like if it's just a ship in the sky and it's like V with some fucking person, just like that's Project Bluebeam to me. And if they really want to fuck with us, like that's the way to do it.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like the world needs something like that to bring us together. And I'm kind of rooting for it.
It'd be great, man. I'd love to see. And the only way, like the thing that makes me think that these aren't aliens is faster than light travel. Whatever that craft did there, it went so goddamn fast with, you know, that would destroy any organic being. Like,
and who told us how fast light is?
Yes, the Jews. That's who. No, I don't know. Einstein. But no, like, if they had faster than light travel.
Think of that.
Yeah, if they had faster than light travel, they'd be everywhere. We would just see massive dark spots throughout the sky where they had spread to. So if they have faster than light travel, it is possible that there could be a massive alien civilization spanning multiple galaxies just beyond our light. You know, it could be within our range of view. We just haven't seen the timeline yet. You know, some of the stars we look at are hundreds of millions of years old. They could be populated by now.
Well, you've done enough ketamine. What if it's not universes and galaxies? What if it's dimensions?
Yeah, no, but my thing with that is I think string theory is bullshit, and I don't buy the 26 dimension thing. So like I don't really know like what is.
Oh, I'm not saying like what people have told us about dimensions. I'm talking about where I've snorted enough ketamine to where I've been in a different place that isn't Earth.
Oh, I've never been there.
It felt like.
I've never been there.
Okay. Because you put it on your tongue, pussy. No, but I don't believe anything written or told to me about these types of things. I only believe my experience. And I think that psychedelics have opened up my thoughts to, I think that there's more than just
I get you.
But I just don't trust what some scientist is telling me, because they told me that the fucking vaccine was safe and it would stop transmission. So
safe and effective.
And effective.
You can't forget.
Dude, I don't know how Trump did 3 hours without pissing.
Dude, he's. I can barely do an hour sometimes, right?
Yeah.
So, on that, let's get you out of here and into the bathroom, right?
Yeah.
All right, everybody. That's it for tonight. Go down to the description and order some fucking pills from Dan, man. Have some fun.